Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona announced initially he planned to vote yes for Brett Kavanaugh, and then he was confronted by two protesters in an elevator in the Senate. That was on tape. There it is. One of the women who was screaming at him, it turns out, is a professional activist on the payroll of billionaire George Soros. Her name is Anna Maria Archila. She's co-executive director at the Center for Popular Democracy, which Soros funds. Another protester who harassed Senators Mitch McConnell and Bob Corker also, amazingly, works for that group. Congressman Jim Jordan is a Republican. He represents the state of Ohio. He sits in the House Judiciary Committee, and we're happy to have him tonight. Congressman, are you surprised to learn this?
No, I mean, the left has gone completely crazy. I mean, you think about this. They applaud Kaepernick and they try to destroy Judge Kavanaugh. That's the modern day left. So it doesn't really surprise me. I said this the other day to a group I was addressing, that they applaud Kaepernick when he disrespects the flag. They embrace Cuomo when he said America was never that great. And they cheer on Maxine Waters when she encourages people to go harass Republicans, like what happened to Senator Flake. So this is just the left. And I think Americans see through this, and that's why so many folks across our district, and frankly, I was in Texas last week, I think around the country, want Judge Kavanaugh to be on the court and know he deserves to be on the court.
It's just a little weird to see this from a nonprofit in Washington. I mean, you think of nonprofit organizations in D.C. as producing backgrounders, helping formulate policy. It's impossible to imagine the Heritage Foundation saying to two employees, high-level ones, hey, go to National Airport and scream at Mazie Hirono as she gets in her Uber. I mean, Republicans just, so is that a legitimate use of a nonprofit?
Well, I don't think so, but that's the left today. I mean, my wife and I got what I call the treatment. 2 days after Maxine Waters, clear back in June, said, go harass people who support the president, we got the treatment at the theater here in town. So, look, you and I would never do that to someone at a restaurant, at some public event, but the left now thinks that's appropriate because, look, again, they applaud Kaepernick, they attack and try to destroy Kavanaugh. That is the left today. And frankly, as we head into this campaign, I think that is how we should frame this up. Here's the left and all their craziness, and then look at the record under President Trump's leadership in the last 20 months, how amazing that is. Frame it up like that. If we do that, I think we can win. Think about the lowest unemployment in 20 years, 4.2% growth rate, taxes have been cut, regulations reduced, Kavanaugh going on the court, Gorsuch already there. We're out of that crazy Iran deal. The embassies in Jerusalem and hostages have been returned from North Korea. Contrast those up, I think we can win, particularly when you demonstrate here is what the radical left is up to in this country. That is what this election's about. Right. And I hope that's the message we take across the country.
So very quick, for those of us who worry that this is accelerating into a really scary place, has anyone ever thought about going over to Maxine Waters' office and saying, you know, I get that we disagree, but please don't encourage physical confrontation or violence because, you know, that's dangerous?
No, I don't know if that's been done, but I appreciate liberals who come from a different perspective. I was good friends when he was here in Congress. Dennis Kucinich, a friend of mine, and we agreed on so many First Amendment issues, Fourth Amendment, Bill of Rights issues, civil liberties. We could work together, but now the left, they don't seem to be where Dennis was, and he and I could work together on things.
I agree.
That is a scary thing for this country, and I know you know that, and that's why it's so important, and you keep talking about this like you have been.
Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dana Perino is the person we talk to when we want to understand the political ramifications of all this. Obviously, she hosts the Daily Briefing every day at 2, and she's the star of the 5, the singular one, I would say, but that's just my view.
Thank you for
what
having
is
me.
the political effect of the Kavanaugh saga?
As the president likes to say, we'll see what happens. It is really high stakes, and everybody is super engaged. They were sort of like waiting, like, what would be the October surprise? Well, I think that actually the Kavanaugh is it. For Republicans, they could benefit in certain places. For example, in the states like North Dakota, you see Heidi Heitkamp now down 10 to her Republican challenger. That's really big, and it's going to be hard for her to come back from that. Also Missouri, Indiana, and West Virginia. But it could help Democrats in House seats and also some gubernatorial seats, and it might help them where races are really tight in Senate races like New Jersey and Florida, maybe Nevada and Arizona. So I think from that perspective, we don't know. There are, I think, 3 Democratic sets of parties that are going to, I think, call it the Kavanaugh blast zone.
Yes.
And they're not happy about it. The first ones would be the red state Democrats who face voters in 5 weeks. Those are those people like Heidi Heitkamp, I mentioned, Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly. All of them are in states where the polling shows that Republicans strongly support the president, they strongly support Judge Kavanaugh, and that one of the #1 reasons they went to vote in 2016 was the Supreme Court. Then the second one would be the 2020 Democratic senators who want to run for president, but they're not on the Judiciary Committee. Right now, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are having all the fun. And people like Elizabeth Warren, she has to figure out a way to stay in the news. So this past weekend, she said, by the way, I might run for president, after just 3 weeks ago saying, of course I'm not going to run for president. So they're trying to figure out how to get in there. But the biggest loser probably will be Joe Biden, who actually arguably could be one of their best candidates against Donald Trump in 2020. But because of this, and if you go back to the Anita Hill hearings, he's going to have such a hill to overcome that they might have just shot him in the foot.
Interesting. So, but you think if it hadn't been for this, he would have been a legitimate contender?
Well, I think timing is everything. And of course, you could say there's all these improbabilities for why. But one, name ID is super important. And he has the highest name ID of any Democrat. He's certainly testing the waters to see if he could run. And he's got energy and he wants to fight against Trump. And he's one of those Democrats that might be able to bring back some of those blue collar workers that you write about in your great new book, Ship of Fools. That you won't promote on your own show.
Well, you put a bow on that sentence. I thought Joe Biden had a shot in 1988, so he might be one of these perpetual...
Well, that's why President Trump calls him the 1% Joe.
That's pretty funny. Dana, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.